You will not fail with this one tip, and it will save you a lot of money. There is nothing more disappointing, especially as a beginner gardener, than buying yourself some new seeds of some gorgeous variety of flower or fruit, only to find there are hardly any seeds in the packet. Not all seeds come with a really stingy amount of seeds, but many do, especially where the variety is supposed to be new or some speciality or other. If you are a beginner gardener, you probably don't realise when you buy these seeds that so few seeds in one packet means that the odds are really stacked against you succeeding. And that seems to me to be unfair, which is why I'm sharing this video with you. It's a hack to get around it. Yesterday I was filming me sowing the seeds that I've recommended sowing in my previous videos about sowing in June, July, and I realised that I just had to make this other video first for you. As I was filming it, I realised I did it again. I bought these seeds and inside the packet were like 15 to 20 seeds, and I thought I'm actually going to do a video on this for you because I wanted to show you some context for when you get seeds. So this particular variety was a Snapdragon, and again it's one of those speciality varieties that I mention, and somehow this means that you get a lot less seeds than say a more bog standard variety of Snapdragon. But I want to ask you this question. One, what's really wrong with the bog standard Snapdragons? I grow all of them, and I actually am sort of going back towards the more jolly, less contrived Snapdragons. I do really like the bread ones that have a specific colours. I particularly like these magenta ones. But honestly, when you're doing casual bouquets, sometimes too much formality in the colour scheme can kill them. So it can kill the sort of the lively effect of the flowers. So what I was thinking was, do you really need speciality Snapdragons, even as a cut flower? So if you're growing a cut flower patch, do you really need them? If you're just growing them in a cottage garden or a garden, a back garden, or in a container, do you really need these speciality Snapdragons? Because if you look at the difference here that I'm going to show you now between the packet you get and just what you get in one seed pod, right? So let me just show you how many seed pods you get on a stem of Snapdragons, right? You get all these seed pods here. Sometimes you get less, sometimes you get more, depending on how far in the season and whether this is a secondary branching stem. Secondary branching stems of Snapdragons tend to have less flower heads and therefore seed heads on them, but there's still a lot here, as you can see. So let's take a look now at some foxgloves, for instance. So these are the apricot variety of foxgloves. Look at all the seed pods on this foxglove. It's never ending. Now, these seed pods aren't ripe yet, but I'm going to crack one open just to show you here how many seeds you get in one pod. Now, I have to say, when I have bought foxgloves, they do tend to have a more generous amount. But again, once you start getting into those speciality varieties, they pare down the quantity of seed in those packets drastically. And so look here how many I've got, and then, compared to say how many you get in the seed packet. I think Snapdragons in particular can be really stingy when you go for speciality varieties. And then, of course, you've got the poppies are just absolutely full of seeds. But to be honest, when you buy poppy seeds, they tend to be a lot in there as well. Well, I don't know. It does really also depend on your brand. And so if you're going for these speciality peony poppies, as I've grown here, there tends to be less in the packet. But as you can see how many you get in one head, there is a lot. Sweet peas are another one. I collect my own seeds because I fill usually 1 to 1.5, standard jars. So what would be in there, like 400 grams? What is that in old money? I'll put it on the screen. I fill one of those to 1.5 jars full of sweet peas. Now you know when you buy sweet pea packets in the garden centre or wherever online, you're lucky if you get 10 in there. And that's just not going to give you billowing borders, let me tell you. You need to grow your own. And all this, of course, can be applied as well to your vegetable stock, especially your peas. Again, the same collection system would be required. And also things like tomatoes, cucumbers, they have lots of seeds that you can harvest and use the following year. So, as a beginner gardener, what I'm trying to explain is, and you're not necessarily zoned in on this, because what you're doing is it's a huge learning curve for starters growing a garden. So you're focused more in on the growing than what's going to happen next year. Right, so what's going to happen next year is you're going to have to go and spend all this money again on seeds and what have you. And, it's just going to be a never-ending circle. And I actually did once add it all up. You're actually not really saving money often by starting a garden from seed or even starter plants. You're actually not saving money as if you were just buying everything from the supermarket. It's almost like it's been worked out that way. But once you start collecting your own seeds, then that's a different ball game. That starts really saving you money. But it's not that it's just saving you money, it's a numbers game. So if you're a busy person and you're out running the kids to and from school, you've got a job, your husband's got a job, maybe you're on your own and you do everything yourself like me, there isn't always time to be babying plants from beginning to end. There are going to be times when you just forget them, where you run out of time and you didn't get to water them. That is life. And what you need is enough seeds, and this is how it works in nature. You need enough seeds that some will survive. This is why these plants produce so many seeds. It's so that they have the best chance of at least some of these seeds coming through and surviving to produce their own seeds and continue, the family line, if you like. So that is why they do it. And so when you buy a packet, when you see how many seeds one flower head of snapdragons produces, and then you have 15 seeds in a packet, you realise that in nature, this flower has produced all these seeds, but you've got 15. You have really got to be on your game to make sure that even half of these survive to flowering. And that is a tall order if you're a beginner gardener, or even just a gardener who has some experience but just doesn't have a lot of time. So what I'm saying is, make sure you collect your seeds. Start focusing in on what seeds you can collect, because you can grow everything from seed. So even your shrubs, your perennials, you can grow them all from seed. So I just want you to start turning your head towards thinking about that, especially if you've got your plants to flower, it's maybe your first year. Next year you're thinking, that cost me such a lot of money. I lost so many plants, they didn't grow. So what I want you to do is collect your seeds, go around the garden and collect your seeds, and you will see next year you will just have so many options. You'll have so many sweet peas, you'll have so many nigella, you'll have so many flowers. You won't know what to do with them because you collected your seeds, and the best of it is it didn't cost you anything next year. And also then you have your resources. If you do want to focus and experiment with the speciality variety, you can do it then. Now these seeds have already been more or less emptied and shaken into the bottom of this envelope, but as you could still see, I could still get even more seeds out of them. And each one of these pods just represents one of the flower heads, one flower head of many on just one stem, on one flower stem. And again, with the sweet peas, you get, 5 or 6 in a pod, and then you can repeat that thousands of times over once you've started to grow lots of sweet pea plants, which you can do when you collect your own seeds. So that's really it, really. I know it's not rocket science again, but sometimes it's just a question of, thinking about it, because we're so focused as new gardeners on growing those plants and getting them to flower. And then we feel so joyful that they flowered that we just forget that next step, which is to collect those seeds so that you don't have to keep buying everything new every single year. And with the sweet pea, so let's have a look. Some of the plants you can collect the seeds really easily are the nigella, the sweet peas, obviously, calendula, marigolds. I've even collected Bistorta pink poker seeds, which are not necessarily traditionally raised from seed. You would normally buy the pot plant from the garden centre or specialty nursery, and then you would divide it by propagation. But I've even collected those seeds, so I'm getting really good at collecting seeds and then experimenting with germination. And of course, you can learn a lot more because you've got more room to fail if you're not constantly spending money on seeds and then losing them, then you get demoralized and then you give up. Anyhow, I'm not going to waffle on any more than that, but we're getting to that time now where some of your first flowers are going to already start producing seed heads. As you can see, some of these pictures were from my garden now, so it's not long before they're going to be dried pods that need harvesting. And, from now on, there will be a succession of different flowers that will produce seed heads and dry and be ready for harvesting right now through to winter. So make sure you look out for those. And even your sunflowers, I just collect the whole head. You don't have to fuss about. As I showed you, you can just store them if you don't have time. Just take the heads, dry them, store them upside down in a paper packet or a paper bag. Not plastic, preferably, because it does sweat, although you did see me using some plastic. But mostly paper bags are the best. Store them upside down, and then by the time you come to use them next year, all those seeds will be in the bottom. They will have fallen out. They'll be in the bottom of the bag, and you can just use them. And it's just so easy. It's just not even worth thinking about buying seeds when you can do it like that. A lot of these plants do come true. So I've grown the magenta snapdragons. They seem to come true every year. Some of the pink ones, the twilight mixed came true. The sweet peas don't, but I don't mind the colour. And then occasionally what I do is I will supplement with different colours and varieties and buy a couple of packets just to grow those different varieties. But mostly I just use my own sweet pea seeds, which revert to this purpley blue pink colour. And zinnias, of course. And zinnias, you can actually breed your own zinnias. I'll get onto that in another video. You actually don't even need to buy specialty seeds sometimes if you're really going to go into gardening big time. But that's all for another story. And don't forget, even your dahlia seeds. Now, your dahlia seeds won't come true either, but you can really have fun sowing them next year and seeing what new varieties come up that you might want to divide and save for your own personal stock of tailored dahlias. So please start thinking as much about collecting seeds as you do about growing them, because your garden will just billow once you get into this mindset. There will be no stopping you. Anyway, I hope that motivates you and inspires you. If it did, please subscribe, click the like button, share with your friends, and I'll see you again in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.